Rewriting a Life by Jan Mitchell of Rathmines 2283. Narrated by Janine Penfold. Lydia nearly went home again. She hadn't brought paper and pen. Stupid, really, since it was a writing group. Today's topic is survival, June, the group leader announced. You have 20 minutes to write, and then we'll hear your stories. 12 heads bowed over their notepads. Some members of the group frowned, puzzled, or sucked the ends of their pens, while others scribbled furiously. Lydia could hear the clock ticking. It reverberated loudly around the room that was, otherwise, only filled with the sounds of breathing and the flow of ballpoint pens over paper. Occasionally, someone sighed and scratched out a word or two that disappointed them. This was Lydia's first attendance at a writing group. She was unsure of what this exercise was about, of what was expected. The lady next to her, Josie, gave her some paper, and the woman across the other side of the table lent her a pen. Charlotte was on her name badge. An idea popped into Lydia's head, and she began to write. More ideas flowing as she settled in. She wrote about moving from Hong Kong to Sydney during the late 1990s, when the Chinese took control of the island. She had been born there, educated and married there. Unlike her, Peter was Anglo. They'd worked in the same company. When Peter was transferred to Sydney, it was the first time she had walked on foreign soil. Cruelly, the company hadn't given her a transfer. Now that she and Peter were retired, they decided to move again, north from the big city, to live out their final years beside the lake, where Peter could indulge himself with his new boat and go out fishing. At first, Lydia was at a loss with how to fill her time. Her neighbours rushed off to work every morning, and she was dreadfully lonely without Peter. Friends she and Peter had made in Sydney had promised to come up to visit. It wasn't a great distance after all. When Lydia phoned to invite them, they had too much happening to be able to visit. She was desperate to meet new people, intelligent people like herself. Then she saw a notice in the local supermarket about the local writers and decided to go along to see if she would fit in. Lydia wrote about the depression she suffered after their move to Sydney. She described how she missed the familiar life of the bustling city of Hong Kong, how she frequently found herself wandering the streets of Chinatown, just to be near others who looked like her, tears of homesickness streaming down her face. When Peter found her a secretarial position in the company, she was less miserable. The work was less exciting than her high-flying finance job at home. Peter seemed to adapt to their new life so much better than she did, and he didn't have to deal with the racism that she felt every time she shopped. Now, the move to their dream retirement home had brought back those desperate feelings of being dislocated from all that was familiar. To make matters worse, Peter suffered a stroke moving furniture into their new home and died in the ambulance. Lydia was still pouring out her misery onto the sheet of paper when June called, "Stop!" Everyone put their pens down. What lovely, friendly faces these people had. Most were grey-haired women, one had green dyed hair, and of 3 men, 2 were bald. Who would like to read? The leader looked expectant. "I will," said Charlotte. Lydia listened to Charlotte's crisp story of a boating accident where, miraculously, after their tinny sank, 3 people had managed to scramble over rocks to safety. "Next," said June, looking pointedly at the man next to Charlotte. He began to read, stumbling over his own handwriting. He had written about his father surviving when a grenade had dropped into the wartime trench and killed everyone else. The next member of the group read about her survival giving birth to her first baby alone in the outback. The next piece of writing told of surviving her years at boarding school with a bullying matron. And so it went on around the group, everyone's story so different from the rest. After the person on Lydia's left had finished reading about her son becoming paraplegic in a car accident, June said, "Would you like to read, Lydia? Newcomers aren't expected to, but you may." Lydia blushed at the attention. However, she felt her story was as much a survival story as those others. Maybe people would realise she was lonely and offer friendship. She swallowed hard and in a very small voice began. As her story progressed and she gained confidence, people bowed their heads to hide their feelings. Empathy infused the room. When Lydia finished, everyone clapped. "Well done." "Thank you." "Heartfelt." "How brave you are." Her head swam as the people around her exclaimed. June clapped her hands. "Thank you for reading today, Lydia. It seems you were looking for a sense of belonging. Maybe you'll find it with our group." Lydia felt warmth suffuse her body. Maybe she would find a place here. She decided to return for the next meeting and bring money to join the group. Everyone was different and their stories so diverse, yet they were accepting of each other and, more importantly to Lydia, it seemed they would accept her. When everyone had finished reading out what they had written, Lydia found she hadn't listened to any more stories. Her heart was too full of the friendliness she felt from the people in the room. As everyone was packing up, Josie approached and invited Lydia to afternoon tea the following week. It was the start of a beautiful friendship, a long association with the writing group, and a chance to explore in writing her feelings about calling Australia home. The end.